MLR, folks, latest set of results. Some interesting ones at the weekend. Thanks again to Alan for these new jerseys. Absolutely awesome. Good to be rocking the ATL. The Dallas Jackals are there, even though they're winless. AG's there, they're doing pretty well. But yeah, we'll go over some of the games, results, and upcoming fixture standings. You guys can let me know your thoughts on how things went. First one, Toronto only just snuck through against DC. That's pretty close. This one, I didn't watch it in full. I only saw highlights. That one seems like it had a crazy finish. It ends up with like a 32-27 scoreline, and Toronto getting 2 yellow cards, having to hold out with 13 guys, but they managed to get it done, which is important because DC's a winless team. And Toronto's only just managed to get home. They lost their first home game in Ontario last week. It's like you waited so long to get home and they lost it, which was disappointing. But yeah, they managed to sneak through this one. DC, I think, is tracking pretty well. I know that's a bit of a laughable statement when you look at the record of 0-9, but their results at the start of the season were genuinely atrocious, and then they're getting a 32-27. Like, that's not too bad away in Toronto. I mean, maul tries were partly the order of the day. The Toronto guys scored a couple of really nice ones. McCann got one on the left wing, a nice 2-on-1 offload. So it was 10-0 with a penalty and a try to Toronto. Couple of maul tries for DC, and then one for Toronto to make it 15-10. So yeah, mauls were certainly the order of the day. And the start of the second half, the Toronto backs were unleashed again. So certainly some good highlights. But yeah, DC did decently to come back because they were down, 29-10? So to come back and finish, within striking distance at the death speaks to, I guess, a bit of the commitment and the improvement. So yeah, still no wins, but I believe they will get there. I don't know if I'll say the same about the Jackals just yet because they've had a bit of a tougher road. But yeah, DC may be tracking towards a result at some point. Toronto, They seem to have peaked a few weeks ago on the road, but hopefully they're going to settle in at home because they are at home again to NOLA next. DC is also at home to Utah, who's not been in great form, so that may be a game for DC to target. So DC is 6th in the East, kind of no surprise. Toronto 4th, just outside the playoffs. The next one, New England and Seattle. This one was a proper close one. Bodie Nwaka still seems to be having a great season. He's really good, isn't he? I wonder if New England will be able to keep him because surely he's on somebody's radar. With all due respect to the New England Freejacks, I mean, there's got to be a team in the Premiership or in the top 14 or something looking at these guys, which is a good thing about the MLR, is it's going to give exposure to both the international guys and the American guys to contracts in other leagues around the world, which can only be a good thing. I mean, we've seen the American coach Gary Gold, he seems to prefer to pick overseas players, maybe to a little bit of his own detriment. I feel like he's ignored some of the MLR talent personally, but I'll leave that to him. Waka, though, did miss a penalty early, but man, he set up Balakana for the first try. That guy beat a couple of offenders. He gets a double in this game. Pretty hard to bring down. He doesn't look that big, but he's pretty strong. And 5 set up McDowell, who's got pretty good gas for a flanker to make it 14-0. So 14-0 is looking pretty comfortable, but Seattle hit back with a maul and a penalty, so 14-8 at halftime. 14-8 is very much game on, and it finishes game on as well. But yeah, there's a 21-8 lead to New England where Balakana got his double. But yeah, the Seattle guys weren't done. They managed to bring it back, albeit it was kind of in stoppage time, 80 plus minutes when they did get that final try to get the losing bonus points. It was not like they could have snuck it at the death. That would be a little bit... if you just looked at the scoreline, you would have thought Seattle could have won it, where actually they were beaten, but just managed to keep fighting to get that losing bonus point. But credit to them for doing that. New England are on the bye next. They are first in the East. They're tracking really well. Seattle have got San Diego next at home. They are 5th in the West, so that's going to be a big game for them. San Diego and Seattle got a bit of history in this competition, so it's probably an important one for Seattle to get a win against the divisional rival because they're still outside the playoffs at the moment, so we will see how they go. The next one, Houston and Dallas. It's another Dallas loss. I still haven't seen what's the update with the Dallas squad in terms of all those guys that were injured in that accident. But yeah, they're none from 9. Houston, I mean, they didn't blow Dallas off the park. And half-time, it was only 10-6. So by no means a rout, especially in that first half. It was a Houston maul try and then a couple of Dallas penalties. So 6-5 early on. And then on 36 minutes, Barrett, the blindside flanker from Houston, got a try. And you just can't be letting him run like that. He just put his head up and just ran for the defensive line, beats the first tackler, beats the fullback, and he goes over. That one's a bit of a soft one that the Dallas guys would certainly like to have back. But yeah, 10-6 half-time. And then second half gets a bit messy for the Dallas guys. It's a penalty try with the Houston forwards trucking it up. Yellow card to Dallas. Houston did come at close range for them, and then their number 12, Van der Scaife, he ends up going over, so 24-6, and then he ends up getting a double before full time. So yeah, it blows out a bit at the end, but maybe first half showed some encouraging signs for Dallas, but yeah, they're still winless, and if the two winless teams were to go head to head at the moment, I'd be back in DC for the minute. But yeah, first season, there's been some positives, there's been some work-ons and an off-the-field accident. Certainly doesn't help things. They are 7th in the West. The Dallas Jackals are not surprising. Houston are still 4th in the West, so they need to go on a bit of a good run, but they're away to the Giltinis next, who seem to be in red-hot form. And Dallas are home to AG, which could get pretty messy. We'll see what kind of team the AG boys put out. The next one was NOLA and ATL. This is the one I watched in full. The other ones I've tried to catch as much as I could. Some were just highlights. Some was like half a game here or there. But NOLA and ATL, I made a point of watching this one in full, mainly because I wanted to put this ATL jersey on. And it actually started with NOLA. NOLA managed to get a try within like 3 minutes. It was a little kick over and the ATL guys couldn't take it. So 7 points to 0 early. That's what you want if you're NOLA. It had a bit of a festival feel to it in the crowd. Like lots of music playing and the crowd getting into it. So it seemed like a pretty good vibe. And going 7-0 up is a pretty good way to start the game. ATL got held up as well, so they couldn't quite hit back, but they did manage to, not long later, there was a huge pass. Their number 12, what's his name? I wrote it down. Duplessis takes a ball well over his head, so, good hands to take a looping pass, which sent him up into the space, but he would have liked it a wee bit lower, but either way, it doesn't matter, and it was a fair period of pressure, so, yeah. And then Austin White got one over on the left wing. He looked to him, hurt himself in putting that one down, but on the left wing it's a good one. So 10 points to 7 at that point. ATL extended their lead with a penalty, 13-7. Momsen got a try. The pass from the tight head prop to set that one up was proper thing of beauty stuff. So 20 points to 7. NOLA had a maul on 35 which failed to get over, and I wrote a note like they need this try. They didn't get it, but then they got it 2 minutes later when they looked like they were going to set the maul, but went for a sneaky line-out move, and I love teams that do that. The ones who just maul every time tend to fail a fair bit, unless they just got a dominant maul that nobody can stop. Like, you need to have a little bit of that variation. Loads of teams do that. Like, if you don't watch the women's game, the England women gave Wales a hiding the other day. They alternated a lot. Like, this is a team which has got some world record set of wins. I know it's hard to compare team to team. Like Super Rugby years ago, the Lions lost to the Crusaders because every time they just tried to maul it, and the Crusaders would just hold them out. Like, you need a bit of variation to keep the defenders guessing. So when they're all committed and pushing as hard as they can, and you've actually decided to spin the ball wide, they're so focused on pushing that their reaction time is a bit slower, so they can't peel off. That kind of thing. It was anyway. Going on about that too much. It was good stuff, and the NOLA guys needed that. So 20 points to 12. I think halftime it was 2017. But yeah, second half, ATL do kind of run away with it. There's a try to Elof, which makes it 27-17. That one was a good ATL hit back when they had advantage. So yeah, man, I don't know. It's it's a pretty big scoreline in the end away from home. ATL looking a pretty good team. They're going to be one of the contenders for sure. They were good last year, and there was a little bit of doubt about them going into the start of the year with the off the field stuff, but they seem to be coming pretty right. They are second in the East with their 7-2 record. NOLA is fifth with their 3-6. So it's not all doom and gloom, but yeah, 34-17 is a bit of a tough one for the home fans to take, I'm sure. ATL's on the bye next, and NOLA is away to Toronto. NOLA, I mean, maybe. Toronto's looking a bit vulnerable at home. They've not been fantastic the last 2 weeks. That could be a really good game to watch. The last two, San Diego and AG. San Diego actually went into halftime with an 18-10 lead in this one, and yet they only score 3 points in the second half, and AG really pile on the points. So I guess maybe if AG is going to be a championship team, that's encouraging stuff, that they can go behind and chase a game rather than just kind of dominating from the outset. I mean, San Diego got the early try through, what's his name, Frey, 5-zip, and Mason got the penalty for AG in reply, so 5-3, then it was 8-3, then it was 11-3, so the San Diego's for Peterson happy to kind of keep the scoreboard ticking over. AG got one from close range in the reply, though. They had the TMO check that one. It's really good having the TMO in the MLR this season. They don't have all the angles, but it's certainly better than having no TMO at all. So yeah, 18-10 at halftime. AG again with the penalties, and then their offload game really kicks into action in the second half. They tie things up. Hugh Roach, he gets a couple. One of them is him down the right wing, and I don't know if I've ever seen Hugh Roach run that far. It was a good 20-30 meters, and then he gets one on the left wing not too long later. So, yeah, man, their offload game just was too much for the San Diego guys to deal with. So, like I said, if they're going to be a championship team, this is a good test for them, because San Diego, I mean, they're still in the playoffs. They're third in the West, but AG's first. And as I mentioned, AG got Dallas next, so first against last in that conference could be a pretty messy one. San Diego are away to Seattle, like I mentioned, with those teams' history. That could be a pretty interesting one. There's a bit more on the line for Seattle in terms of trying to climb the table, but San Diego is going to have to hold on for grim death. So basically, that could be the game to watch next weekend, San Diego and Seattle. We'll see how things go. The last one, LA and New York. I don't know what else you can say about this one. I mean, the scoreboard says it all, 43-0. 43-0. I mean, New York, good team. I don't know what's going on. It was LA Maul, Henko Humahes with the power, Goddard with the pass, the pop pass, Sears Duru with the bump off, like bonus point by halftime, 26-0. Second half penalty. Ryberg got a couple. I mean, he's a powerful unit, isn't he? Johnny Ryberg. Yeah, this is a really embarrassing result for the New York boys, eh? They were on the bye next, which I think is kind of important, because like 43-0. They should be closer than that. But as I mentioned, LA seemed to become right. They had a slow start to the season, LA. They dropped a couple of games. They didn't really kind of hit the ground running. I know they've had some injuries, but Arini Aye's kind of stepping up in his 40s. He's doing all right. So, LA is up to second now in the West. They are home to Houston. They'll be big-time favourites for that one, because Houston is a wee bit inconsistent, although their records aren't hugely different. But, that's a statement win. For them to beat New York by more than they beat the Jackals by, that's, like I mentioned, a big-time statement. So, LA home to Houston, second in the West. New York can rest and recover. There's a few teams on the bye next week. Utah was on the bye this week. They are another team that probably could use that week to rest, recover, and reevaluate where they're at, because it's been a bit of a messy season for them too. But anyway, that was the MLR for the latest round. I forget what round number, it'll be in the title. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you think the teams are lining up? I mean, favourites right now surely have to be AG in the West alongside the Giltinis. You'd think it's going to be between those two teams in the West at the moment anyway. In the East, probably, I mean, ATL seems to be, are they a clear favourite? No, sorry, New England as well. ATL and New England. Yeah, they're both seemingly the two, but I guess there are other teams that could disrupt. Anyway, I'm rambling. You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.